To another episode of Day to Day with Adrian. My job is to push your boundaries of thinking and challenge your assumptions and ignite your curiosity. If you're looking for a fresh perspective on the world, you're in the right place. Get ready to expand your mind because this podcast has no limits to what we can explore. Welcome to another episode of Day to Day with Adrian, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, serial entrepreneur, inspiring model, and actor. And today we're going to embark on a journey to unravel the mysteries of overthinking. Now, let's define our topic. Okay, what is overthinking? This is something that we've all experienced at one point in our lives. It's the never ending loop of, of negative thoughts, often repetitive and unproductive. And it can leave us anxious, and it can leave us overwhelmed. Now, why do we why do we overthink? There's countless reasons why somebody like as myself overthink or anybody else. But today we're going to discuss some triggers that I've commonly became self-aware of. So, and I wanted to share that with you all, my audience, and it can probably help you get an accurate handle on your own symptoms. The first one is uncertainty. Uncertainty. When we face uncertainty, our minds can't help but create so many scenarios to help us predict every outcome. This is something that I struggle with a lot because I'm a person who doesn't want to necessarily work harder to get myself out of something than I got myself into, right? And I'm actively trying to overcome that trigger. The second one is professionalism. Now, a lot of people call me a perfectionist, and I start to see it in myself, and it's not really a good trait to have because it doesn't help me get started. It keeps me stagnant because I want something to be perfect all the time. That it stops me from getting started. I would like, for instance, I wanted to start this podcast 2 years ago. 2 years ago, and what stopped me was I wanted the best equipment. I wanted guests. I wanted a good environment. Wanted the studio, but none of those things actually mattered. That was just me being a perfectionist and wanting the best possible outcome, which kept me from starting for 2 years. 2 years. Okay. The third one, when it comes to overthinking, is past trauma. Past experiences can haunt our thoughts, leading to rumination. What is rumination? Rumination is the it's the it's it's the dwelling of negative thoughts and feelings, and that can leave us also with anxiety and having us to become overwhelmed, and also stopping us from trying new things. And that has also stopped me from trying a lot of things because that fear of failure and that fear of embarrassment, which we all got in the past, it really capped my abilities. And I still struggle with that to this day. And so do a lot of us, right? But that's just me coming to the self-awareness part of that and trying to get an accurate handle on my symptoms, or I'm gonna be forever condemned to suffering my symptoms. But it's definitely a fight, and that's the hardest fight that anybody can. That's that's like the hardest fight that anybody can battle is that psychological warfare. But the first thing is becoming aware of the problem. Now, what are the consequences of all of those triggers? What's the damage? What is it doing to me? Well, overthinking can lead to anxiety. It can lead to sleepiness. And most importantly, and this has happened to me many times, but most importantly, it can impact our relationships and our productivity. And it's like carrying a mental backpack of rocks. It's like when I'm walking, I'm dragging my head behind me because I'm so overwhelmed on getting started with my day, and I'm also dealing with past experiences that I need to let go of that's no longer serving me a purpose, right? So now that I've discussed, to me, that I've discussed you know, what overthinking is, my triggers that can possibly be your triggers as well, and the damage that it does from my own testimony and personal judgment. How can I or we come up with strategies to overcome overthinking? And the first one that my mentor has brought to my attention was mindfulness. It's focusing on here and now. Do not worry about the past and do not worry about the future. It'll all happen when it's supposed to. Number two, and I've learned this the hard way, is to set boundaries. Not only with somebody else, but you got to set those boundaries with yourself, right? You can't let your mind wander into overthinking territory because it'll cap you. You gotta set aside certain a certain time for worry time because it's gonna leave you unproductive as it did me and many others. And number three that I believe that I've actually had the luxury of having this resource is talk it out. Many men don't have that outlet to just talk it out. And this is one of the reasons why I created this platform in the first place, among many others, is to be able to talk things out because keeping that bottled up, and it's a lot harder to deal with that when you don't have to. Who said you have to you can't talk it out? I don't know what stigma of masculinity had put that upon men to bear the burden of their own pains and not have to speak about it. And this is one of the reasons why suicide rate is so extremely high, is because we feel the need that we can't share our thoughts, you know? So, and that's what I've learned along my journey. And I feel like that's can be a form of toxic masculinity, not being able to share your thoughts. And one thing that I've noticed that I've done was bear the burden, overthink, and be like, well, this person doesn't have time for my problems because they have their own. That was me overthinking, right? Because I feel like many men got the time for that because they know what it feels like to be or to feel the way you're feeling right now. So a lot of men have stopped that I watched. And when I used to work the front desk, a lot of men would come up and just to spill their thoughts. I'm like, bro, I'm 19, 21, 22 at the time, and grown men are telling me their problems, which I've learned from experience, from their experiences on what not to do. But I mean, I really couldn't provide any remedy at the time because I haven't been through any of those things. But still, was a way for them, a source, and a way for them to s- pour their thoughts, and they let their thoughts escape their minds. And number two, well, not number two, number four, actually, is something that I've started doing myself, and it's to challenge my own negative thoughts. I'm going to say that again. Challenge your own negative thoughts. Most of what I've realized also in my own testimony that most of the problem is caused in my head. 99% of the time, it's in my head. And the 1% of the time, it's what actually happened. Have you ever explained a story to somebody and they didn't give you the reaction that you were looking for because you expected them to feel the same experience you felt in your bones? It doesn't work like that. And most of the time I got a reality check. I'll explain my story to somebody and they be like, "Bro, you got mad at that?" And that's a clear indication that I'm making the problem more than what it should be, or I'm making the situation harder than what it should be. And I had to learn, and me being self-aware of that, I was able to understand. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. I think that's a major gem, is to challenge your own negative thoughts. If it's a negative thought, ask yourself why. Why do you feel the way that you feel? And you can probably help through a process of elimination understand yourself a lot better. Which brings me to my next point, which is avoiding self rejection. This is something that I did a lot because we all get tired of being rejected. A lot of men go through it. It's a part of life. And what I came to the realization is if I don't feel like I'm going to get it, I'm gonna do it anyway. Like if you don't feel like you're gonna get that job, apply anyway. If you don't think that you're gonna take this girl out, ask her anyway. Don't allow yourself to think yourself into rejection. If you're gonna get rejected, it's gonna happen. Let the external forces work that out for you, but don't do it to yourself. So, and that's one thing that I struggled with bad in high school. And I got an accurate handle on it, right? If you don't think you're gonna make it in life or become a millionaire, try anyway. Like what's stopping you from trying other than yourself, right? And along this journey, that's what I figured out. Nobody is stopping me but me in my own mind. And that's one battle that men struggle with is the battle of mental warfare, psychological warfare. It's hard to overcome that. And if it wasn't for the books that I've read and the experiences that I've taught or I learned from, I'd still be that same person. Also, in using past knowledge to help me to using past knowledge to help me better my decisions, man, I can't tell you the sense of awareness that I got from that. And one of the most important things too also is time. What I've learned is most problems aren't going to be solved with more thinking. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but most problems are not going to be solved with more thinking. Most of my answers, and it could work for you, but most of my answers came from sitting in silence. Is when I learned how to figure out most of my problems. You got to give yourself time, right? Because if you've never been through an experience, you have to allow yourself to process the emotions you're feeling in that situation before passing judgment. So you're gonna have to sit there and figure it out. Don't rush into a decision. I know a lot of things that I got in a lot of trouble with rushing into a decision. It's not the best way to do things. Now, if things call for your sense of urgency, go for it and pass your best judgment. But when you're making decisions regarding your future that you can have some sort of patience over, I would I would take my time in dealing with those things. And the last but not least, and this is a major gem, and I've kind of touched on this earlier, but it's the power of right now. I cannot tell you how important that is. You are not, listen to me, you are not going to overthink your way to a better past or future. All you have is the power of now, and what you do with now can make right of your past and your future. That may go over a lot of people's heads, but I mean, all you have is right now and in what you choose to do with it. You can make right of your past. I know people think that you can't, but you can. You can change your image. You can do what's necessary to better your future. Nobody's stopping you but you. You can always turn your life around no matter what. There was a quote that Articus said, and he said when he said this, it stuck with me. And I read this a few months ago, but he said, We wonder, we drink the poison from our minds and wonder why we feel sick. Now, when I read that, I was like, I felt attacked. I felt attacked because I'm like, man, that's deep. But coming across that opened my eyes up, And another quote that I like from he was a Roman emperor and a philosopher. His name was Marcus Aurelius, and he said, "Happy, your happiness." He said, "Your happiness is completely dependent on the quality of your thoughts." If I would have came across this kind of information earlier in my life, it would have helped me not make a lot of mistakes. But at the same time, if I never would have made those mistakes, we wouldn't have me. I wouldn't have this pod. I probably still wouldn't have this podcast. I don't know where I would be right now if I didn't go through the mistakes that I did. And I read this other quote, and I forgot who said it, but he said, "There's no." I forgot the guy's name, so don't quote me on this. But he said, "There is no progress if there's no suffering. I can't tell you how much I suffered in these past 6 months. A lot of this could have been internal, a lot of it was external, but if there was no suffering, if I suffered, I'd make no progress. So if y'all are in a moment of suffering right now, you are making progress, whether you realize that or not. You may not be able to see it. Sometimes it takes an elder. Sometimes it takes somebody else to speak that life onto you, to let you know, man, you're on the right path, you're going in the right direction, right? And that's, some people don't have that kind of outlet, and some people do. If you have that luxury, right? So if you have that person who is able to give you that guidance, you should listen to them and don't beat yourself up so much. I know I have, like, when people look at this, they're gonna be like, bro, you did the same thing. I'm aware, right? But the point is that I have an accurate handle on it, and I'm actively making progress to not do those things. And I wanted to share this with you so that you guys also can alleviate some of that pressure that we all place upon ourselves. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Also, uh, when it comes to, and I missed this earlier, but when it comes to self rejection, that also means a point where you're also stagnant in your life. If you're at a point in your life where you're not making any progress, whether that's with a job or a relationship, whatever it is, where you feel like you're stagnant and you're not getting no better than what you were, then you it's time for a change, because you have to actively be pursuing your inspirations. And that goes for everybody. Everybody. You will find the quality of your life a whole lot better if you pursue your aspirations. So, so that's it's gonna be a short one today, guys, and that's gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. And we've kind of explored the labyrinth of overthinking. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for joining me. And you guys have a great day, and embrace the power of a clear and focused mind. Well, guys, this wraps up season 1 of Day to Day with Daydream podcast. Season 2 is coming soon. I have many more guests. I have a lot more to talk about, a lot more to share, a lot more inspirations to give you guys. I got so many guests coming. I'm going to take this podcast to another level. I have a website coming soon. It's going to be great. So I guys want you to stay tuned for what I have in store for season 2. And with that, you guys have a great day. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Day to Day with Daydream podcast. We hope it left you inspired, informed, and ready to take on a new challenge. If you enjoyed what you heard today, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Your feedback is what keeps us going. So thank you for being a part of our podcast community.